thinking behind the suggestion to boycott the Winter Olympics?
Well, I don't know. You know, I wouldn't want to do that. It'd be the last thing I'd want to do. Would I consider it? Somebody asked me, would you consider boycotting the Olympics if they granted Snowden asylum? And I thought, well, you know, you don't want to punish athletes. They've done nothing wrong. But do I really want to reward Putin if he continues to do what he's doing? And let me tell you what Russia's up to. They've aligned themselves with Iran to support Assad in Syria, who's butchering his own people. I asked the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff today if the Russians pull their support away from Assad, would it change things? And he said dramatically. And Assad is winning, according to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Russia's helping him win. And a year from now, if he's still in power, our ally, the King of Jordan, could be deposed. Iraq is falling apart because the violence spilling over from Syria to Iraq. And Hezbollah, a radical Shiite terrorist organization, is now helping Assad and trying to get weapons that Russia is selling Assad to use against Israel. So that's one backdrop.
Yeah.
They're not helping stopping the Iranian nuclear program. And if they give Snowden asylum, here's my question for the country. Should we reward this kind of behavior by allowing him to have the propaganda coup of hosting the Olympics?
Well, listen, you make a very compelling case for why Russia has been a bad actor and why we shouldn't reward Putin. However, how does boycotting the Olympics and, as you say, hurting the athletes, how does that change Putin?
I think it would really matter to the Russians. It would undercut their, you know, should we have given Hitler the Olympics in 1936 to sell the Nazi regime as something it's not? I'm not suggesting that Russia is Nazi Germany. Would you have the Olympics in Iran? The answer would be no. You wouldn't reward the Iranian regime with hosting the Olympics. The question for me is, should we allow a country like Russia, who is engaged in bad behavior all over the world, to be rewarded with hosting a game of peace? I don't want to, you know, destroy the lifetime goal of athletes, but I want a world that's not about to blow up. I want Russia to change. And if you've got a better idea how to deal with Putin, let me know. Well, he's running all over us. He's running all over the world. And I'm willing to stand up to him and make it hurt.
Here's what your friend and colleague, Speaker John Boehner, has said in response to your proposal. He said Senator Graham is, quote, dead wrong. And he asked why the U.S. would want to punish athletes, as we've addressed, who've been training for years over what he calls a traitor who can't find a home. In other words, pulling athletes out of the Olympics elevates Snowden to a level that maybe he doesn't deserve.
It's not about Snowden alone. It's about Russia continuing to align themselves with Iran to allow Assad to stay in power, to what I think would hurt our regional interests in the Mideast beyond anything I could imagine. How do you get people's attention? What are we doing to Putin? I don't want to punish athletes, but I do want to not reward Putin. And would you, Alisyn, would you go to the Olympic Games in Iran?
I would not.
Would you take an invitation from Putin to sit in his box at the Olympic Winter Games?
But I mean, are you saying that by our athletes going there to compete that we are beholden to him in that same way? I mean,
no, I think you're elevating. I think you're giving him a propaganda. Look what Hitler did in 1936. He hosted the Olympic Games. And when you read the reports coming out of Nazi Germany, they sold to the world something they were not. Like it or not, the Olympic Games are used by the host country to sell themselves. And here's my question. Should we be part of selling Russia for Putin? Should we empower him in next winter if he continues to help Assad murder the Syrian people, supply weapons to Assad that can be used by Hezbollah against Iran, and if he gives Snowden asylum, should we give our good housekeeping seal of approval on the games that he will be hosting? I don't want to stop the Olympics. I want to stop Putin. and I'm willing to consider anything because what's going on in the world because of Russia is very dangerous. The world is blowing up, and Russia is one of the reasons for it.
Senator Lindsey Graham, thanks so much for explaining your perspective on all of this, and it sounds like you're open to suggestions, so we'll see what your colleagues there...
I am open to suggestions, but I'm not open to doing what we're doing. It is not working. Obama, up your game. He is walking all over the Obama administration, and they need to push back.